Well, this can't go any worse than last week. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, a podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Yeah, last week was really bad. Grossi, and today we are going to be breaking down and predicting every single game in the Week 4 slate. And last week, I went a whopping 7-9. Disgraceful. The chaos from Week 2 carried over into Week 3 and has just created an absolute disaster. I am currently sitting at 27-21 in the Pick'em League, and there are 4 people who are doing significantly better than me with a record of 35-13, and that is MME Go Birds, Watermelon, we got Pats Fan 87, and the Fizz 33. And so congratulations to you 4. You are much better than me at this. And so, let's start off with the Thursday night football game. You got an NFC East showdown between the Dallas Cowboys and the New Jersey Giants. The Cowboys. Woof. Okay, well, things aren't going so great for the Cowboys. They were able to knock off the Browns week 1. Everyone was like, oh, okay, they're pretty darn good. And then we also see the Cleveland Browns are just not a good football team. They get walloped by the Saints in week 2. And then week 3, they're getting absolutely demolished by the Baltimore Ravens. However, they were able to come back later in that game and make it within 3. However, they ultimately fell short. And the Cowboys, I think the most disappointing thing for them right now is their defense. Their defense, which was really good last year to pair along with their great offense, and we just have not seen that. They don't really have a run game right now, and everything in Dallas is just not going well. Meanwhile, the Giants, you won a game! And who did you beat? The Cleveland Browns, who, that's the only team the Cowboys beat. So yeah, this could be a very bad game. Cowboys, if you lose this game, it's going to be bad. And after a phenomenal game by rookie wide receiver Malik Neighbors, he's got some Giants fans coming out of the woodwork now.
The New York Giants.
I liked them first. Before I even met them, I liked them.
Yes.
I liked them right away. You hate them compared to how much I like them.
Shut up, you're so annoying.
That's right, Giants. You can be happy again. And heading into this Thursday, this is a huge game for the Dallas Cowboys. For the Giants, I don't necessarily see them getting significantly better as the season goes along. We'll see how Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors are able to pair up, but I just think there's too many holes with that team. I would love to be pleasantly surprised, and this matchup, if the Giants win, I will laugh so hard, and maybe being played in MetLife, there is a shot here. However, I am going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I still think that they are a better football team, though both these teams have only beat the Cleveland Browns. We'll see on Thursday. I'm going with Dallas. I'm expecting a big game from CeeDee Lamb. And yeah, Giants fans, if you win this might be your Super Bowl. Following that, you got the New Orleans Saints taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Both of these teams losing last week. The Saints losing in a nail-biter against the Philadelphia Eagles, in which it was a back-and-forth game. Both defenses playing really well. And if it wasn't for a great play from Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert, the Saints could have definitely won this game as they pulled ahead near the end. Unfortunately, their explosive offense was nowhere to be seen on Sunday, so we'll see if this is the beginning of a trend, or maybe it was a fluke. Meanwhile, the Falcons, yeah, they just want to have a chat with the scriptwriter about that ending last week.
I will find him. I will find him. I will find him. I will find him!
The Falcons nearly knocking off the Kansas City Chiefs, in which you had a blown defensive pass interference not called in the end zone. However, the Falcons got that ball back, and with some really bad play calling at the end, they were unable to beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. And this should be a great game, not only for the fact that they hate each other, but I think it's going to be a real test for both these squads of where they rank within the division. You had the Buccaneers lose last week to the Broncos in a pretty terrible way. The Saints had a really good first 2 weeks, and the Falcons were favored to win this division before the season even started. And taking a look at this, I'm really curious to see how the Saints offense is going to perform against this Falcons defense. I know we're going to see a healthy dose of Bijan over on the Falcons offense, and Kirk Cousins looked pretty good on Sunday night, and we saw that Monday night win against the Eagles a couple weeks ago, so we know that he has it in him. And with this game being played at home, I originally was going to pick the Falcons to win this game. However, the Saints usually have the Falcons number, and I think that they're going to have a nice rebound game after a lackluster performance on Sunday against the Eagles. So it's a little bit of a toss of a coin, but there's a few games on this slate that are just like that. So I'm going to be rocking with the New Orleans Saints this week, though I think this will probably be a very ugly and brutal game and potentially low scoring. But hey, that's what rivalries are all about. Saints win. Following that, you got the LA Rams taking on the Chicago Bears. The Rams having a come-from-behind win against the 49ers in the IR Bowl. Both those teams absolutely decimated right now. However, Matthew Stafford still got a little bit of magic left in him, able to propel that team to win, plus Jake Moody missed a field goal, which was definitely helpful. And the Rams, they're just trying to hold on until they could have some players return from injury. They're going to be taking on the Chicago Bears, and they lost to the Colts last week, and that O-line desperately needs help. But Bears fans are still holding out hope in Ryan Poles.
I don't care if Ryan murdered his entire family. He is like a son to me.
And if there's a silver lining for Bears fans right now, it's that Caleb Williams looked pretty good in that fourth quarter, and maybe that could be a building block. The defense is still playing pretty darn well. However, if they were unable to move the ball really effectively against a bad Colts defense, I don't know how much success they're going to have this year. The interior offensive line is obviously not good. Caleb Williams is struggling, and also the play calling with Shane Waldron is also terrible. So you have this plethora of things going against the Bears right now. They're playing at home against the Rams, who are a beat-up football team, and I like how the Bears defense matches up against the Rams offense, especially as they're down multiple players. However, I just cannot trust the Bears at this point. I'm going to go with the Rams simply because they have a better quarterback right now. Their offensive line is better, and I think they're going to be able to put up some points against this Bears defense, and I don't know if I can say the same about the Bears offense. And so because of that, I'm going with the LA Rams to get the win. Matthew Stafford knocking off the Bears again, just like good old times. And then you got the purple incarnation of Satan, the Minnesota Vikings, taking on the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. Oh, do you feel it? Do you feel the electricity in the air for this game? I do. The Vikings knocking off the Strouds last week and living to tell the tale. A lot of stories coming out about Brian Flores' defense and how it was improved last year, but has been looking really good to start the season. And what they did to the Strouds was damn right impressive. They made CJ Stroud's life pretty damn miserable. I know they didn't have Mixon, but you still got to give him a ton of credit. Also, on top of that, Sam Darnold playing pretty flawless football right now. Justin Jefferson, an absolute monster. And the Vikings could be getting some key players back. They were still missing Jordan Addison. They were missing TJ Hawkinson. And if they're able to put them into the offense, this offense could get even better. It's also Aaron Jones' return game to Green Bay. And he put out an article and it made me cry today, but it's fine. It's totally fine. They're taking on the Green Bay mother-loving Packers, who had a big win over the Tennessee Titans in the Malik Willis revenge game. The Packers defense was able to get after Will Levis 8 times last week, and it was phenomenal to see. They're leading the league in turnovers. They have 7 interceptions in just 3 weeks after having 7 all of last season. And this is going to be a great football game. I think there's a great chance that Jordan Love returns from injury. He was really close last week, and he was really close the week before. So I imagine that he's going to return for this divisional matchup. And I know there's a lot of confident Vikings fans out there that think they're going to be able to win this game. And I just got one thing to say to you.
Not today, Satan.
That's right. Why do I think the Packers will win besides just blind faith? Because I'm worried about that interior offensive line a little bit for the Vikings. That's right, Sam Darnold. They coming. Preston Smith, he's coming. Devontae Wyatt, he's coming. Rashawn Gary, he's coming. Phrasing? And last year, you saw the Vikings come into Lambeau and win this game, and I know Aaron Jones is probably going to have a really good game because, of course, he will. And there's definitely a chance the Vikings wind up winning this football game, and we just wind up beating them in Minneapolis later this year. However, I am going with the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. Aaron Jones, return game. Hopefully Jordan Love, return game. The passing game is going to be reignited when Love returns to the field. But yeah, I think the Packers should be able to get after Sam Darnold. And if they are able, which is easier said than done, to limit Justin Jefferson, the Packers could sneak away with a win here. And so because of that, I'm going with the forces of good to triumph over the purple incarnation of Satan. Following that, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Steelers, they're 3-0, and they might not be lucky, but they might be pretty good.
You got lucky.
Guys like you always think other people get lucky. I don't get lucky. I make my own luck.
The Steelers knocking off the LA Chargers. Unfortunately, the Chargers had a litany of injuries near the end of that game. Joe Alt got injured. Justin Herbert got injured. However, the Steelers played the team in front of them. Justin Fields had his best game as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and they are currently 3-0. TJ Watt is an absolute monster. The defense is looking really, really good. And for the Steelers, who have a rough schedule on the back end because it's just all divisional games, though they went 5-1 in the division last year, it's looking like the Steelers are going to potentially make a run. And it is going to be the most boring football you're ever going to see, but you're going to watch it, damn it. They're going to be taking on the Indianapolis Colts, who were able to get a win against the Chicago Bears last week, and it got a little bit close at the end. However, the Colts, especially with Jonathan Taylor, who's just so damn good, was able to get the W. And looking at the Colts, there's definite concerns about Anthony Richardson as he's still developing. He's a young quarterback, and he barely has played in any games. And they're going up against a very good defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I imagine that TJ Watt might have a field day against Richardson and that offensive line, and it is going to be a tough matchup for the Colts to try and win because I don't know how much room Jonathan Taylor is going to have trying to run against that defensive front. And so because of that, I'm going with the tried and true method of Steelers football. They're going to the Super Bowl. We can't deny it anymore. Wave the towels, but I think their defense is going to dominate. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game, but yeah, Steelers win. Following that, you got the Denver Broncos, who got a win! Let's go! Brandon Perna doesn't have to cry anymore. Bo Nix using his feet as well, looking pretty damn good against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know the Buccaneers are missing some serious pieces. However, the Broncos defense was able to cause a ton of problems, getting after Baker Mayfield, a ton of sacks. And for the Broncos, maybe this is building blocks that they can use to get better throughout the season. I definitely do think Bo Nix has potential, and it's going to be curious to see how he's going to face off against this Jets defense. Meanwhile, the Jets played a near perfect game of football last Thursday night. They had a little bit of a mini bye after decimating the Patriots, and old man Rodgers was turning back the clock last week, the way he was extending plays with his feet. And you love to see the mobility of Rodgers, which really was absent the first 2 weeks of this season and really was on display against that Patriots defense on Thursday night. Allen Lazard is having himself a season because, of course, he is. Garrett Wilson's playing well. Of course, you have Breece Hall. And that defense was able to decimate the bad offensive line of the Patriots. I do think the Jets definitely have an advantage here, and while the Broncos defense was pretty damn good, I'm curious to see if their pass rush is going to be able to get after Aaron Rodgers and make him uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, I do believe in the Jets to win this game. It's a Nathaniel Hackett revenge game against Sean Payton and the Broncos, and so because of that, I am going to go with the Jets. I think they're just a little bit more talented on offense. You have Aaron Rodgers, and if he's able to dice up this defense, it might be a long day for Denver. Following that, and the camera totally didn't change because I recorded the first part before GPS and now the second part now, you got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Eagles pulling off a big win against the New Orleans Saints, the high-powered offense of the New Orleans Saints last week. Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert saving the game for them. That defense was really damn good. And looking at the offensive side of the ball, it is obvious that they are missing A.J. Brown. Unfortunately, Devontae Smith getting hurt in that game as well. And the Eagles heading into this game, I'm sure are going to want to take some revenge out on Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers for that playoff game last year.
Assured, dear viewers, we here at the Daily Bugle will not rest until we've uncovered the web of lies.
And the Eagles are kind of a weird, funky team right now. I know there's some potential coaching questions and coordinator questions, but I feel like once they get healthy, that Eagles team should find a groove. It is still September. And yes, I am kind of giving the Eagles a bit of a pass, but I think the way that their defense is playing, even though they allowed a bunch of yards against teams like the Packers, I think that overall, they're a strong football team that is filled with a ton of talent, and Saquon is just that guy. The Saints have a really good defense, and heading into this game, unfortunately, the Buccaneers, they are missing some defenders. The Buccaneers had a terrible loss to the Broncos last week in which Baker Mayfield was just under siege the entire game. They really couldn't get anything going. And for the Buccaneers, similar to the Saints, you just got to hope that this is a one-off. You got to hope that they get healthier, that offensive line is going to look better as well, and Baker Mayfield can find the groove that he had those first 2 weeks. This should be a pretty damn good football game. It's being played in Tampa, and I would give the Buccaneers an edge for that because the Eagles have to travel down to Florida. It's going to be a little bit warmer. It's a 1 o'clock game. However, with the injuries that the Bucs are currently facing right now, I am actually going to go with the Eagles. I do think that D-line is going to put a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield. And if they're able to get a guy like A.J. Brown back, who at this moment is questionable, that will be a big addition to that offense. But overall, I think the Eagles should be able to win in a very close game. It'd be great for the Buccaneers if they were able to sneak this one out. However, I'm going with Philly here, and let's see how high they can fly. And then... this is going to be interesting. You got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Bengals, 0-3 start. Things are not going well. Joe Burrow looked pretty good on Monday night. However, that defense... oh, that does not look good. They are missing DJ Reader. While they did get guys like T. Higgins back and Jamar Chase had a really nice game, I'm also a little concerned about their ground game, which was a concern that I had heading into this season. And the Bengals, they just need something to go right. Thankfully, they're going up against the Carolina Panthers, who you would think would be an easier game. However, Andy Dalton is starting. After starting last week, Andy Dalton was able to have a really efficient game and roll through that Raiders defense. And talking about the Panthers for a hot second, their offense was just clicking a lot more. And so you look at Bryce Young and say, obviously he wasn't the solution there. I don't know how long Andy Dalton is going to be the answer at quarterback, but I think in the interim, this is a more competitive Panthers team when you have Dalton behind center. And because of that, they have a shot to win this football game. And so now this game gets a little bit more intriguing. It's desperation time for the Bengals, and the Panthers, they're just trying to stay afloat and saying, hey, can Dalton be the guy who can save us here? I don't know if that's going to be the case. And so because of that, I am going to go with the Bengals. I think they do have more talent. However, if the Bengals lose to Andy Dalton...
this is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
It's gonna be chaos. So Bengals, you better hope that kitty is going meow on Sunday. And Panthers, you have the opportunity to do a really funny thing. Then you have an AFC South showdown between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans / Strouds. Both these teams basically lost their games after the first quarter last week.
Okay, we are cooked. Yep, we are absolutely cooked, chat. GG.
The Jaguars being absolutely decimated on Monday Night Football by Josh Allen and the Bills. And the Jaguars, they have a lot of problems right now. We're looking at coaching. We're looking at offensive line. Trevor Lawrence is not playing well. The defense is not playing well. Everything is going wrong. And they need to get right against a division rival in the Strouds. The Texans had a rough game against the 3-0 Minnesota Vikings. Yep, that still hurts to say. Brian Flores and that defense was able to get after CJ Stroud, and they really just couldn't get anything going. They were desperately missing their run game with Joe Mixon, and for CJ Stroud, kind of looked very human this past Sunday. Here, I think this should be a get-right game for the Texans. They should be able to move the ball against the Jaguars. We'll see how Joe Mixon progresses throughout the week to see if he's going to play on Sunday. But overall, I think the Texans have enough talent here against a struggling Jaguars team. Because listen, the Jaguars have the talent, but they are just unable to put it together right now. And it seems like they're in a bit of a free fall after losing all those games to end last season. And this start has not been good. So I got to go with the hot team, even though they just came off a loss, with the Texans. And Jaguars fans... yeah, I'm just sorry. Then you got what should be a really intriguing game. You got the Washington Commanders taking on the Arizona Cardinals. The Commanders coming away with a big win on Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals. Jaden Daniels looking really damn good. And I got to imagine all the teams with rookie QBs are a little bit jealous of Jaden Daniels' success right now.
Let's see Paul Allen's card. Look at that subtle off-white coloring.
Thank you for not taking him, Chicago. But the Commanders, man, it's just an awesome story for their fans, considering Dan Snyder was a plague that was dragging them down into the depths of hell every single week. And now, not only do they have new ownership, but it looks like they have, in at least the first 3 weeks, they have their franchise QB. I know it's super early. We're not crowning anybody yet, but Jaden Daniels has looked pretty damn good, and that's super exciting. And it's a team, while they have like Scary Terry, and I like Brian Robinson a lot, they definitely have lost some talent over the years. So to see them get a big win on primetime, it's just an exciting time for their fans. They're going to be taking on the Arizona Cardinals, who were looking good for a hot second against the Lions, and I think they're a really competitive team. Unfortunately, that second half was just a big stinker, and they were unable to do anything against the Detroit Lions defense, who is much improved this season. The Cardinals, again, they're my underdog team heading into this season to potentially get a wild card spot. Kyler Murray is evasive as always, and this should be a really fun game. Being played in Arizona, I believe in Kyler Murray a lot, and I do think that Marvin Harrison Jr. should be able to get the ball a bit more. James Conner should have a little bit of a better game. And while I do think this will be a potential shootout between two mobile quarterbacks, I am going to go with the Cardinals here to get the win. I'm going to go with the experience of Kyler Murray over the rookie Jaden Daniels just to be a little bit more efficient. And so Cardinals should win in a close game, but otherwise, this should be a fun one to watch. Then you got the New England Patriots taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The Patriots, yeah, Thursday Night Football was not good for them. Their defense is solid, though it wasn't against Aaron Rodgers. Also, their offensive line is awful. They had Jacoby Brissett in there. He was getting beat up. They put Drake May in there for a hot second. He was getting beat up. It just was not a good time. And the Patriots, I know no one really anticipated them being very good this year, but it just speaks on how bad the offense really is. And that's for a number of things. You have Bill Belichick, who's a great coach, but not really a great GM. They just don't have a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball. I love Stevenson a lot, and there's definitely potential there, but with the lack of blocking, you can't really even risk putting in your potential franchise QB at the moment, and so you're just rocking with Jacoby Brissett until, hey, they want to see what they got in Drake May. They're taking on the 49ers, who are unable to win against the Rams, who had a comeback victory. Unfortunately, a miss by Jake Moody, and the defense just falling apart at the end. Couldn't get it done against the Rams. And Kyle Shanahan, it's time to have that talk again.
There's only one way to say this. You messed up. You blew it. You goofed.
But the 49ers are also dealing with a ton of injuries right now, and ultimately, I think they're going to be just fine. We just need to wait for some players to come back. In the meantime, though, I think they'll be able to handle whatever the Patriots throw at them. I think they'll be able to get a bunch of pressure on Jacoby Brissett. And so the 49ers should win this football game. It is being played at home, and hopefully this could be a get-right game for them. Though if they lose, I'm not going to complain. Then you have what is a 50-50 split right now on the Pick'em League between the Browns and the Raiders. I don't know who the hell is going to win this game because it's going to be something. The Browns, they thought they were going to get an easy win over the Giants last week. But like a good neighbor, they got destroyed. The Browns offense is just not fun to watch at all. Deshaun Watson has been struggling for the past 3 weeks. He does not look good. Without Nick Chubb, there's just something missing from that offense. Myles Garrett is banged up now on the defense. And yeah, things are not looking good in Cleveland. They're taking on the Raiders, who did not fare much better against the Panthers as they lost to Andy Dalton. Gardner Minshew is not really doing well. The offense is nothing to speak of. They got no run game. But my disappointment last week comes with the Raiders defense, considering how highly touted they were. And this game, yeah, could come down to anybody. The Browns are not playing good football. The Raiders are not playing good football. And I imagine this is going to be a very low-scoring, ugly game. I am going to go with the Raiders right now because of the injuries to the Cleveland Browns, and I just don't trust Deshaun Watson whatsoever as a QB. And I think the Raiders might be able to force some turnovers. The Raiders are going up against a tough defense in the Browns, so it's not going to be the easiest thing. But if Devontae Adams can get cooking a little bit, Raiders should be able to get the win. And so because of that, I'm going with Vegas. Then you have an AFC West showdown between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. The Chiefs, able to sneak away with a win on Sunday Night Football against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. Yes, a no-call DPI definitely did help. And I got to talk about the Chiefs here because they're not playing the greatest football, and yet they are still 3-0. And yes, the officiating has not been great, but that's across the board. But they're finding ways to win the game. Isaiah Pacheco is out, and Carson Steele had over 70 yards on Sunday night. We'll see what he's going to be able to do this week. And Patrick Mahomes is not playing his best football either. But again, they're still winning football games. And it being September, we haven't seen what the potential is for any of these teams so far, because I'm sure there's going to be plenty of movement as we head into October. They're going to be taking on the LA Chargers. And yeah, Jim Harbaugh preparing his team with all those injuries and a suspended Derwin James.
All I can do right now is put on a brave face and go out there and be their leader.
It's over. We are screwed.
It might not go so well. And the Chargers, it's so damn disappointing because they started off the season super strong. They're running the ball really well. And now that's going to be called into question. As Justin Herbert is hurt, Joe Alt is hurt. There's just so many issues going on with the Chargers in terms of injuries and trying to stay healthy. And now they're going to be facing off against the reigning defending Super Bowl champs. It's not a great matchup right now. I hope the Chargers are able to hold their own, but I got to go with the Chiefs to get the win here simply because they are just more healthy right now. And so, yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to win. It might wind up being a close game just because it's a divisional game, and that's usually how these games go. But I got Kansas City getting the W. Following that, you got a Sunday Night Football matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. And to those people who said that Josh Allen was overrated.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Yeah, we can take those apology letters right now. And here's the thing, with the Bills, I anticipated that it was going to be a little bit of a reload. I had their ceiling still potentially making the playoffs, but they have come out of the gate looking really strong. And I know that there is some history there. And hey, the Bills have had great regular season and then fall apart as the season goes on, especially in the postseason. But right now, Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL, the way he's been playing these past 3 weeks. And while he was the leading rusher on Monday night, James Cook has been playing really well. The defense and Von Miller has been playing really well. And you just gotta love the kind of football they're playing. They absolutely destroyed the Jaguars, who did not even have a chance. And now they're gonna be taking on the Baltimore Ravens, who have not looked great in recent weeks. They are 1-2 right now after a win against the Cowboys. They got off to a big lead against Dallas and then let that lead fall away from them. The Cowboys recovered an onside kick, and all of a sudden, it was a 3-point game. The Ravens, they're going to need to play pretty much perfect football against the Bills. And it being played in Baltimore definitely favors the Ravens here. However, their defense is a little suspect right now, and they're going up against one of the best teams in the NFL these first 3 weeks. So because of that, I got to stick with the momentum and the guys who have been playing well, and that is Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I'm curious to see how that defense is going to contain Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, but I think Buffalo should be able to do enough to get that W, and Buffalo just keeps on rolling. Then, you got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Miami Dolphins. Will Levis, he knew that this year was an audition, and so far, it is not going well.
No, I'm a star! Please, I'm a star!
The Titans, one of the 3 winless teams in the NFL right now, and it does not look good. The defense is tired because they're constantly on the field. Will Levis is turning the ball over. Their offense can't get anything going. Malik Willis just ran all over them, threw all over them, and it just has not been going well for the Tennessee Titans. And I loved all the moves they made in the offseason, but with Will Levis, things are just not clicking on the offensive side of the ball. They don't really have much of a run game to speak of, which is super disappointing because I love Tajay Spears so much. And that defense, which is usually great, I think they're just freaking exhausted, man. They're taking on the Dolphins, who are dealing with injury issues of their own, in which, of course, Tua is gone for the foreseeable future, and Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle are not the answer in Miami. I would not be surprised if Snoop Huntley winds up starting this week, and I think he gives them the best opportunity to win. He's just got to learn that offense, and if he is starting on Monday, I like the Dolphins' chances of winning this football game, just because I don't trust Will Levis and the Titans right now. The Dolphins, they have a plethora of talent on that team, and if Huntley is able to come in and utilize that, they should be able to win this game, because like I said, the Dolphins offense is really good. You just need the guy behind center that's going to drive that whole thing. If Huntley plays, I think the Dolphins win, so I'm going with them. Otherwise, I think this is going to be one of the worst games we've seen so far this season. And buckle up, it's not going to be fun. And then finally on Monday night, you got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Detroit Lions. Seahawks fans, they love the script this week.
Your reward will be great. Behold! Whoopsie. Now behold.
They beat the crap out of the Dolphins. Their defense is looking phenomenal. Charbonnet was running strong, so the run game was much better than the week before. They're still waiting for Kenneth Walker to get healthy. And I know nobody's really talking about the Seattle Seahawks, but maybe after this game, more chatter will occur. They're taking on the Detroit Lions, who were able to get a win against the Arizona Cardinals last week. Unfortunately, the Lions are dealing with a ton of injuries. Frank Ragnow, he is injured right now, and he is a major part of that offensive line. And ultimately, I think the Lions are still a very good football team. They are just a damaged team right now. Their secondary is playing much better than it was last year, and I think they'll be able to do a good job in limiting the Seahawks offense. However, the Seahawks these past few years have had the Lions number. It feels like whenever these two teams play, they just throw both defenses out the window and go, hey, let's just try and kill one another and score a cajillion points. And I imagine that's what's going to happen on Monday night. It is being played at Ford Field, so I would give the advantage to the Lions here. However, and this is one of the toughest games I had to pick this week, I am going to go with the Seahawks here. Yeah, there's the history, but it's just because they're a healthier football team right now. And considering what that defense has been able to do, looking at you, Byron Murphy, I think they might be able to get after Jared Goff. And if you're able to get him flustered, they should be able to win this game. So with that, I'm going with the Seattle to get the win. For me personally, I hope they tie. But, of course, let me know what you think down in the comments below. How do you see these games shaking out this week? Let me know. You know, find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media see down below. A big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.